It's time for another super sponsor hop of Kendra's card challenge number 13. Today we're going to turn sketch number 5 into an interactive stargazing card with this fabulous stamp of Colorado Craft Company, which is one of our super sponsors. If you hop along, you can even win a prize. I'll give you the details later. My name is Julia and I'm an enthusiastic card maker and paper crafter from Austria. Welcome to my channel, Julie's Kreativschatzkiste. Before we start making our card, I just want to give you some information about Kendra's card challenge, in case you're not familiar with it. It's a great quarterly challenge where Kendra provides 15 sketches for cards, which can be made out of 6 sheets of 6 by 6 inch patterned paper. And the best thing about it, it's completely free and there are great prizes to be won. We have great super sponsors for Kendra's card challenge, and one of them is Colorado Craft Company, which I'm featuring in my card today. So as I said, I'm working with sketch number 5 today. The great thing about Kendra's card challenge is that you can, on one hand, make 15 cards of the 6 sheets patterned paper, but on the other hand, you can choose any sketch you want because you get all the measurements and instructions for making single card sketches as well. Alright, let's start with preparing our base card. I will take the measurements as given in the sketch. However, my card base will be bigger. It will be a square card. I need this bigger square card to have enough space for my interactive mechanism. Before I start, I look at Kendra's cutting plan, because I wanted to have the measurements for the complete rectangle, which I then cut through the corners into these triangles. I chose a dark blue paper as a night sky. I cut the paper first through the corners, then I put it together again and fix it with low-tech tape on the back. And then I cut through the other 2 corners. And that way I just got the right size of paper pieces for my sketch. I actually will be needing just 2 of these 4 pieces, but I will keep the other one in case I want to make the sketch again. Now I'm planning my mechanism. My plan is to keep the upper triangle open and have a wheel behind it with the stars that can be turned at the bottom of the matting layer you see here. So my circle needs to be big enough to cover the entire matting layer, but small enough to have enough space to fix the matting layer on the base card. It sounds complicated, but once you'll see it, it is easy. The 2 smaller circles you see, one is for the mechanism to fix the wheel on the base card, and the other one is for the moon, a central point of our card. On the bottom triangle I want to have my stamp with the stargazing rabbits, and in order to get the size right, I take back one of these blue triangles I cut before and just trace it onto a white paper and cut it out, so it has the perfect size. Next I have to cut the upper triangle out of the matting layer, so that you see my stargazing wheel. So I trace the opening with the paper pieces I already cut, and then I just cut that out as well. Then I'm testing if all my pieces fit together, which they do, thankfully. Now we can start with the stamping. I used this wonderful stamp set from Colorado Craft Company, which was illustrated by Anita Jeram. I simply love her illustrations, they are so cute. These stargazing rabbits on the stamp fit perfectly on my bottom triangle, and that's why I chose them for this card today. I'm using Copic color friendly stamp ink because I want to use my alcohol markers to color in the rabbits. I then stamp the rabbits again on a post-it tape because I will be needing a mask afterwards. And so I start fussy cutting my post-it tape. This way it will fit perfectly on my stamped rabbits. Now I can start blending my night sky background. I use Distress Oxide's Vilted Violet and Faded Jeans, as well as a darker blue, the Distress Ink Unchartered Mariner for this. So while watching me blending, I have a little time to give you details about this hop. There is a playlist in my description box where you can watch all the videos in the hop. The KCC design team would really appreciate if you would watch all the videos participating in the hop. And if you enjoy watching the videos, leave us a like or maybe even a comment. It is a giveaway hop, so for your chance to win a prize, just fill in the form in the description box, there is a link, and then you will be eligible for the prize drawing. You can win a digital prize from Cards by Kendra, and the deadline for the submission of the form is the 13th of February. The winner will be announced in the community tab of the Cards by Kendra YouTube channel. Back to our card. Once I'm finished with blending this triangle, I do exactly the same with this big circle. This will be our night sky. I start with the lighter colors in the middle and use the darker colors on the outside of the circle. Once I'm finished with the blending, I make some drops of water as well as some drops of my metallic watercolor on my night sky. I did the same to my rabbit triangle while the mask was still on the rabbits. Finally, my moon needs to be colored. I use Distress Oxide Wild Honey and Distress Ink Antique Linen for that. I blend the circle with Wild Honey and then I use Antique Linen for the lunar craters. Now I'm checking if I have all my parts together for the card and I remove the mask from my rabbits. Looks good so far. I'm now coloring my rabbits with my alcohol markers, and as the moon is shining on their bellies, they will be the lightest part of the rabbits, while the bottom part of the rabbits and the bottom part of the grass will be darker. By the way, this giveaway hop is not the only chance to win prizes with Kendra's card challenge. You can also participate in the challenge itself and there are great prizes to be won. All you have to do is submit one photo with all the 15 cards you made with the challenge to the Kendra's Card Challenge Facebook group. The link is in my description box. You can participate 3 times per quarter, so once for each month. If you want to find out more about Kendra's Card Challenge and get the free download with the measurements of the sketches and the cutting instructions, there is a link in my description box also. Please also check out Kendra's Patreon page, because the Patreon is the way that Kendra is able to provide the challenge free for everyone. She has great goodies for all the Patreon members as well. Once I'm finished, it is time to add my stars to the night sky. And there are these cute little star stamps included in the stamp sets, and I will be using them to make some white heat embossing on my night sky. I use my anti-static powder tool just to make sure that everything is dry, but I'm not too concerned that some embossing powder is in places where it shouldn't be, because then it's just smaller stars in my sky. I use an acrylic block for stamping the stars, and there was also the star constellation of the Big Bear, which I of course also use. Then I put the stars on my acrylic block and I just stamp them in different angles on my circle, so that the stars are evenly distributed. I did this heat embossing in different steps, and always with each step try to fill in the gaps I left before. And this is what it looks like when it's finished. The paper did warp a bit because of the heat, but I put an acrylic block on it for a while and then it was okay again. I did also do the stamping and heat embossing of the stars on the 2 blue triangles. Now all the components of my card are ready and we can start constructing the mechanism. The most difficult part for me actually was finding the middle of the circles. For the smaller circle, I cut out a circle in the same size, I folded it in half and then folded it in half again, so I get the quarters, and at the intersection there was the middle, and I used my crocodile to cut a hole into the circle. With the help of this stencil I used the hole and marked with a pen the middle of the second circle, and then I made a hole there as well. I could have used the same technique for the bigger circle, but I just used a grid and I looked for the biggest height and the biggest width, and then I marked the intersection with a pen and there was the middle where I made a hole as well. So once these holes are in place, I take a paper bread and I put it through the small circle first and then I put it through the large circle. I try not to fix it too tightly so that the big wheel can move freely and easily. For fixing this wheel on my card, I use these foam squares on the smaller wheel. I can take off the backing then already and put my wheel exactly where I want it. I place it on the top of my matting layer because I want to have some space for the sentiment on the bottom. For fixing the next level of matting layer, I also use foam squares. Here I have to take care that the foam squares do not obstruct the movement of my big wheel, but on the other hand I need as many as possible of these foam squares to make my card stable. Finally, I decided that the easiest way to do that was to loosen up my big wheel again and put it on top of the matting layer so that I know exactly where my foam squares can go. I then put the big wheel back in its place, and just before adhering it, I try once again if the wheel really moves freely. And I'm glad it really does. For finalizing my card, I just put a low-tech tape on the back of my triangles and then I glue them down on the matting layer. I adhere the moon with a foam square to get some dimension into my card, and then I add a sentiment which also came from the Colorado Craft Company stamp set, and I adhere that with liquid glue. I did not use foam tape this time, so that the wheel can be moved easily at the bottom of the card. The final touch was adding these lines to the big bear and adding some smaller stars with my white gel pen. all that remains is putting our layers on our base card. And that is our card finished. I hope you like it. Please don't forget to fill in the form to be eligible for winning a prize in this giveaway hop, and enjoy the rest of the hop. Servus, until next time.